Good afternoon and welcome live on the Fort Lee Athletics YouTube channel, the home of the Bridgemen. It's time for Fort Lee girls soccer. The Bridgemen at 3-8 overall, 3-3 out of the Big North American. They'll play a non-league battle against the Teaneck Highway women, who are 2-9 overall, 0-5 out of the tough Big North National. Good afternoon and welcome. Ralph Bednarchik on hand. Happy to have you with me today for what will be a doubleheader. The boys' game will follow at 7 p.m. in a great battle there between Wallington and Fort Lee coming up under the lights. And for Fort Lee, they're finally just about the healthiest that they're going to be this season at 3-8, getting the services of senior Ansley Castro back 4 matches ago. So she is starting to get into the great swing of things as a key player for first-year head coach Ian Oates. And meanwhile for Teaneck, and they're continuing to try to climb in the very difficult Big North National that they play in with Pascack Valley and Old Tappan, perennial powers, as well as Demarest, who's been very quality, and Tenafly in recent years too. So for Teaneck, they were dealt a couple of really big blows in the preseason, losing their projected starting goalie in Ava Race to an injury, and then early season losing who could have been their leading scorer this year, senior center mid Fiona Henry. So for Teaneck, in a program that is still trying to make incremental steps forward, they lost 2 substantial pieces that have hurt that process. So these are 2 building programs here that are trying to come away with a victory today. Fort Lee has dropped 3 in a row. Meanwhile, Teaneck, they come in looking for their first win in October. They have dropped 6 in a row. Let's give you the starting lineups first for Fort Lee. They'll play for the first time this year out of a 3-5-2 alignment. The senior goalie, Misaki Kasahara, is a 2-year starter in goal, 95 saves on the year. Rosine Riahinajad is the starting center back. Left back is senior Luis Chitima, and the right back, Jera Jana, 2 seniors that flank Ria Hinajad. Then moving forward, senior attacking mid is Angelina Viate, a 4-year starter, honorable mention All-Bergen honors, and the team's leading scorer with 10-5. Joined in the center midfield by Shania Zarita. Wide wingers, Sarah Agranoff will move out wide and start on the right, and Shyla De Silva Jr. will start on the left, with Ansley Castro holding it down, senior holding mid. Last year, Castro went healthy, second team All Big North American, and has a pair of assists through her 4 games that she's played, really 3.5 games that she has played. And then up top in the 3-5-2, senior Ileana James, along with senior Ellis Marcus. Marcus, 4 years on the varsity, first-year starter, with 5 goals and an assist, that is healthy this season. For Teaneck, Leora Palavin, senior goalie, first year as a starter with 81 saves. She was the backup goalie as a freshman in 22, but because of the injury to Ava Race, Leora was thrust into duty, and she has done everything she can to keep Teaneck in games. They played off a 4-5-1 alignment with junior Adeline Perez, senior Caitlin Richards, the center backs, the right back, Cristela Sarachi, the left back, Dalia Restrepo, is a speedy sophomore. Then the holding mids with Susanna Nugan and sophomore Val Cascante, the center attacking mid, senior Ashley Anderson, and the wingers, wide right, senior Emily Martillo and freshman Brianna Andrade on the left. Up top, 3 goals and an assist for sophomore Aleda Roman, including a goal at Ridgefield Park on the road 2 matches ago. Teaneck comes in off of what head coach Alex Cavallo in her 6th season has felt that was their most promising performance. Now, they lost to a perennial Bergen County power in Old Tappan 6-0, but in the second half, it felt like a turning point for them. They showed they can play good soccer versus a team that is really good. It was a confidence booster, and it felt much different than their other losses. And she was able to tell, and even the people observing could tell, that Teaneck has risen their level. And they were able to hold their own and trying to figure out a way how they can stop giving up some easy goals against quality competition as a big factor. So Teaneck in the white and Fort Lee and the black with orange trim, and we're underway with plenty of sunshine, but there is a little bit of that cold fall air crisp. Boys game will follow Wallington and Fort Lee at about 7 Eastern. And I'd like to thank all of our great sponsors that are helping bring this broadcast to you, including and especially the Fort Lee Education Association. So Sarah Agronoff will toss it in. And for Fort Lee, it's a big adjustment because they're running a 3-5-2 alignment. First time playing this system. They haven't had it past one practice. They were working on it even pregame. They haven't played it yet in a game, but it's a different look. As here is Palavin able to pick it up, but Coach Ian Oates thinks this is the right game to give it a shot. And it gives Fort Lee a shape that makes them a little bit more defensive. And both teams have given up big goal numbers. Fort Lee has allowed 47 through 11 matches. Teaneck comes in having given up 54. As they'll say, it's going to be a toss-in coming up for Teaneck and a slow start in terms of rhythm to this one. But for Fort Lee, what they hope that'll do is solidify things and have some more numbers back. And as always, the key when you're playing a 3-5-2, can the outside backs, in this case Sarah Agronoff and the left mid in Shyla De Silva, can they make long runs up the field and then recover? And there is a great balance to that. Angelina Viate. And Viate with James running the middle. And Viate will take the shot. The save is made. The rebound, that's tapped in. Well, there's Ellis Marcus on the doorstep and an early goal for Fort Lee. Goal comes here in the 3rd minute and 1-0 Bridgman. Marcus is able to run onto it. It was not a well-driven ball by Viate, but Palavin, as I said, not necessarily a trained keeper, thrust into this spot and leaving the big rebound there for Ellis to run onto and calmly put away. Viate will get an assist on the initial shot, and Ellis Marcus has her 6th of the season. And Marcus was significant for Fort Lee's last win Monday the 6th at Cliffside Park. A come-from-behind win 5-4 where they trailed 3-1 at the break. At halftime, Ansley Castro finally got cleared from her injury with a post-school doctor's appointment, showed up at halftime and ignited Fort Lee to a big win over their rivals. And Marcus had a pair of goals in that comeback. Viate, as she'll settle and play to feet. Marcus, and Ellis Marcus with a nice exchange out wide. Numbers in the box for Fort Lee. A layoff to the top of the area and finally a clearance coming from the trusted center back, Adeline Perez, a 3-year starting junior. And perhaps one of the most athletic players on this Teaneck side, one of the fastest on the team that has been dealing with Division I type forwards on the schedule for Teaneck. And Perez has been very significant to try to keep some of the scores low. Viate, as she'll go in and out and make the connection with Shania Zarita. As Zarita runs into Dalia Restrepo, the left back. Zarita is able to keep possession. And will slip in Marcus. Marcus with James running the middle, then taking the shot, and the stop made by Palavin. So Ellis Marcus able to use that college track sprinter potential and may elect to potentially pursue that sport at the next level and to follow in the footsteps of her older sister, Jordan Marcus, class of 2023 that runs track at TCNJ. That was also a 4-year varsity soccer player. Here on the push is Ashley Anderson as Ashley sends in a cross, and it will be a Teaneck corner coming up in the first time they've been able to switch fields. Teaneck has already surpassed last year's win total of just 14-1. They did have 6-win seasons in 23 and 21, a 9-11 year in 2018. So there have been years they've been able to build up out of their very tough division that at times may steal a couple of wins away from them just because of the competition that they're facing relative to some of the other divisions in the Big North. And when you have Altapan, Pascack Valley, and you play them usually 4 times, and that could be very punishing. Viate. And Viate trying to stay onside. Will play in Ileana James offside. For Leo ready with a pair of shots. Or make that 3 shots, 2 saves already for Leora Palavin. On the toss in, Ansley Castro. And Castro will pick up a foul as the challenge came in the middle for Aleda Roman. So Teaneck will have a restart. Teaneck in the midst of course, a great developmental project. They do have a JV. And being a program that is a Group 4 school, so greatly helps in terms of numbers. As Castro look to the backside, Marcus trying to make the run, and Palavin will grab it. But Teaneck graduated 9 seniors. Did have a lot of underclassmen returning, and the bulk of this team, though, is in the junior class as Teaneck, with pressure being applied, as Rogine Ria-Hinijan will sweep things away, and it will be a Fort Lee toss-in. Not many of them were starters, but when you factor that in and then not getting 1 minute from your 5'10 freshman projected starting goalie in Ava Race, and then only get a few games from senior starting center mid Fiona Henry, so that greatly stunts any team's growth, even if you are Old Tapan or Northern Highlands of that ilk. Castro trying to deal it forward. Restrepo. And Fort Lee on the toss. A goal by Ellis Marcus in the 3rd minute. Angelina Viate had the shot, credited with the assist. That was saved by Leora Palavin. And Marcus had the easy tap in. So as Teaneck was certainly dealt some substantial hardships to try to build things up, but they are finally coming into this match feeling like they've played their best, and something for Fort Lee perhaps to encounter today as we get a whistle and a foul here in a pretty good spot for Teaneck. So Susanna Nguyen will be over the ball. This is a chance for a 30-yard strike. Nguyen, one of their most consistent, reliable players, grew up playing for Teaneck FC growing up. That's the local club in town where a handful of Teaneck players do have club soccer experience, as her drive is blocked through the wall. By the wall, Sarah Agranoff, and that's last touched, should be last touched by Fort Lee, and it will be a corner. So Fort Lee did not communicate, and it will be the 2nd corner for the Highway women. They'll play this short. Restrepo. As Restrepo, next ball delivered through. So Teaneck trying to surprise Fort Lee by playing it short. And now they'll give up a goal kick. Meanwhile, for Fort Lee, as they try to snap a 3-match losing streak, they come in off of a 7-1 loss at Cedar Grove, who had electric speed, as now as the official will change the call, and it's going to be a corner for Teaneck. 3rd one here in 10 minutes. And a clearance for Sarah Agranoff. Only partial. With good pressure by Teaneck. Agranoff reaching for it. Next ball in the box, still chipped in. This one on the goal line, got through the hands of Kasahara, but she is able to get there. So Teaneck showing some relentlessness as they continue to push the ball and keep Fort Lee pinned in deep. Susan Nguyen had the last chance. Now Ileana James is able to make the turn. And Zarate able to motor ahead. Shania Zarate for Fort Lee, and she'll only play it softly into the hands of Palavin. Quick goal kick as Ashley Anderson looks to settle. And Anderson is able to get on it. In transition numbers for Teaneck. As Anderson, Nguyen, and Nguyen dispossessed. Again, that's good work by the great engine of Angelina Villate. And Villate tries to send Zarate forward. Marcus. And Marcus trying to take on Restrepo with speed. Alice Marcus feed to the front, and she had a cutter to the front and did not see James. Easy handle for Palavin. Fourth shot for Fort Lee as the game is opened up some. As Ria Hinajad will help out Kasahara. Not a full clearance again before Agranoff will handle and possess. Zarate shut down by Val Cascante, 2-year starter. A smaller player, but a very, very good dribbler. Teaneck clearly has some parts. They're hoping to surpass last year's goal total, which was just 7. Last year, in a 1-14-1 season, Teaneck allowed 71. And to come off of last year with some real building blocks to think about next year. Unfortunately, they won't have the services of Fiona Henry, who I saw on the field wearing a heavy knee brace. And Henry tore her ACL on September 26th in a game against Northern Valley Demarest, but someone that is tough and fast and loves soccer and was the main creator offensively. And that allowed Ashley Anderson to play wide forward to really take on outside backs. And the domino effect of that injury of Teaneck certainly has taken some time to adjust. Fort Lee at 1-0, a goal in the 3rd minute by Ellis Marcus. This one bouncing over the head of Richards, and Caitlin Richards with the last clearance. Well, the Bridgemen will have the toss in. Fort Lee, after their come-from-behind win at Cliffside Park, played a tough game against Dumont on October 8th. Game was 2-1 until the final minutes, when basically an 18.5-yard restart was put in by Dumont to finish off that game as one of the better recent performances. Marcus with the strip of Perez. Then Marcus will take the shot early, and it's well off. Well, there was no touch, so it should be just a goal kick for Leora Palavin. So Leora Palavin was last year's starter at holding mid. But as the season went on, well, the preseason went on, and once the injury occurred to freshman Ava Race, it became kind of obvious because Palavin was a goalie split time as a freshman in 2022. Made 67 saves that year before the last 2 years was a field player. And again, last year, the full-time starter at holding mid. And she has had to do everything beyond imagination to try to help her team hang in these games. Villate. And Villate able to shoulder off Roman. Aleda Roman And could not turn the corner. 15 minutes in, shots are 5-2 Fort Lee. Teaneck 3-0 in corners. On the push from Zarita of Fort Lee. And as Zarita recovers and in a collision with a defender, and it will be Teaneck on the throw. Roman, as Roman works through Luis Chatima. Senior left back, Anderson. Anderson to the top of the area, room for Nguyen. And Nguyen with a good decision to deal it back for Perez. The connection with the right back in Cristela Sarachi. As Castro comes up with the breakup. And Ansley Castro is able to separate. Castro tries to make eye contact with Marcus. Marcus then will take it away from the defender. Save is made by Palavin, and Marcus cleans up the mess. Ellis Marcus with her second. And her speed has been the difference maker in both of her goals. 2-0 Fort Lee. A 17th minute finish for Marcus off of her own shot. Ansley Castro able to create there. Ansley having surgery at the end of August and was hoping to be cleared in the first week of October. And it lasted just a little bit further than that until the 6th when she got cleared and joined the team. And she has looked good. She played in one scrimmage, scored 2 goals and 2 assists. So Fort Lee knew what they were missing from her, particularly for Ansley, who missed her freshman and sophomore years with torn ACLs, and last year, first year off of that with 4-2. But Ansley still with sights to play collegiate soccer and to follow the footsteps of older sister Alexa, who's now playing on a good FDU team who could win the Northeast Conference Championship. Viate. And Angelina Viate just taking on defenders as Richards trails. Viate to take it to the end line. Then sprays it across. There's a tap in, and Marcus has her third. 3 goals in 19 minutes for Ellis Marcus, with Viate making the marathon run of about 60 yards to create that. As she chopped a very nice ball all the way across, and Palavin got caught very deep in goal and may not have actually been expecting that pass. No backside defender there for Teaneck. So Ellis Marcus with a career-high 3 goals today in the opening half. Teaneck will make a sub as Cristela Sarachi will come back in at right back. And right now for Teaneck, they have to figure out how they can contend with the speed of Fort Lee moving through the middle of the field. And once Viate and Castro have gotten a head of steam, and then who will be able to stay with Ellis Marcus whenever she finally can get the ball at her feet and starts to turn corners. A chip taken by Daphne Kessler-Godin is off of a Fort Lee body, and it will be a 4th corner for Teaneck. Kessler-Godin is a senior that will play in a backup wide spot, and she'll sub in numerous places for the Highway women. They'll play with this one to the top of the area as they search for Emily Martillo at the top of the 18. Sirachi. And Sirachi at the top of the edge of the 18. Try to slip a teammate through. She had Roman. And Fort Lee will concede another corner. So for Teaneck, scoring chances may have to be the ultimate recipe. And to try to be dangerous on any of these. Susanna Nguyen will take this service. Nguyen's become a big vocal leader this year and going to be a big factor in Teaneck trying to ascend and continue to develop. Teaneck, as I said, a 9-win season in 2018. And they have qualified due to their hard schedule in part that they play out of the Big North National for most of the last 15 years. That's put them in the North 1 Group 3 tournament a couple times as a low seed, either the 15 seed in a lot of years or the 16. In 2021, they got the 13 and had to have a rematch, unfortunately for them, with 4th seeded Old Tapan, and that's almost sometimes the worst thing when you see a team that you've already faced twice that knows your personnel so well in the state tournament, and particularly one that is so well coached like Old Tapan. Marcus, and Marcus off the toss. Marcus now lining up the shot, and Marcus did not get a lot on it. Palavin able to hold her ground and make the save. Her third stop, Leora Palavin, has gone for as many as 18 saves early season against Paramus Catholic. We'll get a host of subs now for Fort Lee as we approach the 22nd minute. So Ian Oates playing 3-5-2 for the first time this year. And the stress will go on those wide players, the left and right mids in particular, that usually have the most runs, most running anyway out of any system, but I think even more so in the 3-5-2. Roman. And Roman will get the benefit of a late whistle on Luis Chatima by our center referee. Well, Elena Roman, big improvement from a year ago. And they're just looking for more finishing out of her. 3 goals and an assist. And right now she leads this Highway Women team. Perez, and Perez will drop it in. Anderson coming in. Kasahara couldn't handle cleanly, and it's put away. Teaneck will pick up a goal. Question was, would it be onside? And it is waved off. Despite the celebration of Teaneck, it is waved off. Indeed, it is offside. So we'll stay at 3-0. The last tap in by Val Cascante, which would have been her first. Marcus, meanwhile, who's got all 3. As Marcus whips a ball across, and Zarita in position for a tap in herself. Wonderful ball by Ellis Marcus. And Zarita just could not get a touch on it, otherwise it's in the back of goal. James trying to keep it pinned in. Caitlin Richards couldn't settle it. And Roman will now look to begin the build-up for the Highway women. Cascante, nicely to the feet of Anderson, who is well offside. A nice quick touch by Val Cascante. Her dad, a youth coach in town, and also grew up playing for Teaneck FC. And that's, of course, it starts in the youth programs and getting players both in volume and as many to play club. And that's what it takes in virtually every part of the country, but particularly in North Jersey, to compete for anything. Ashley Anderson. Through ball is onside, running with Cascante, and Anderson got caught in between what to do. Kasahara is able to come up with an easy save. Cascante off the short goal kick. And Val Cascante was looking to link up with Roman. Viate. And Viate able to handle herself out of a sticky situation. Angelina Viate. With Nguyen trailing, Viate then trying to take the shot, and Sirachi able to get there to deny either service or shot. Well-timed run for Cristela Sirachi and her. And Kessler Godin will make the link through Nguyen. Teaneck's been able to level off the field so far, but it's been the dribbling ability of Angelina Viate, who's got 2 assists, and Ellis Marcus with 3 goals. 2 have been tap-in rebounds, and the third was, in essence, a tap-in, a beautiful pass across the face of goal by Viate. And both basically in and around inside the penalty spot, even inside the 6. "26th minute. As a toss-in again from Marcus, and Marcus was able to briefly retreat from sophomore Dalia Restrepo. Kessler Godin. And then Viate was trying to link up with Ansley Castro. Viate will corral a loose ball. Looking for James. And James beaten to it by Sirachi, who trailed her. Then a loose sitting ball sitting there for Zarate, for Shania Zarita, and her shot is off target. And Zarita came right into the path of a ball played behind a Teaneck player. Shania Zarita with 3 goals and 3 assists as Marcus again probes the end line. Agranoff, Sarah Agranoff having numbers in front. Caitlin Richards is able to handle cleanly. Still loose at the 6. Then a shot, and the stop is made by Palavin. And more good work done by Fort Lee on their 6th shot. Cascante able to win a ball in the middle. Nguyen dispossessed. And Restrepo nicely delivering. However, out of the range of freshman Brianna Andrade. Andrade scoring the game-winning goal in one of Teaneck's 2 wins this year, early season at Cliffside Park. And she has not been able to get involved that wide much yet. Ashley Anderson. Perez. Good ball for Roman. Elena Roman, and then as she looked for a runner, and it harmlessly rolls in to Kasahara. So Teaneck with some remnants of a nice build-up. The 4-2-3-1 is what Teaneck has found as their most comfortable system. And then as the season has gone on, one of the things Coach Alexandra Cavallo, who's an alum of Teaneck, they're trying to work on her team's confidence moving forward and not just relying on a couple of players trying to push up the field. And, of course, that comes with the confidence of being able to run back with transition defense as Villate was hoping for a touch, and good defending by Val Cascante. With no touch, it'll be a goal kick. But getting up the field to recognize the play developing and then still recover defensively. And the other aspect is just the first touch and the passing fundamentals that still, of course, that is the base of soccer. And once that aspect is conquered at a higher level, and the aspect of playing club soccer greatly factors into that. Near nice connection for Teaneck. And Villate will play out Sarah Agranoff, but it's out of her range. And the preseason ended up kind of a lost one in a lot of ways for Teaneck. They had several starters miss time in early September, while Fort Lee really just lost at the time Ansley Castro, which is a big deal to not have her for the vast majority of the preseason and what you're working on. But Teaneck started off even further behind in terms of the growing process for a year. Sirachi, and nicely to feet for Roman. And Aleda Roman, here's the connection for Cascante. Then the return for Roman or Anderson. And it is Anderson who deals with Luis Chitima and will put on the pressure. So as you see an example of Teaneck's ability to link up and push forward. And it'll be a Teaneck throw, so they'll get more numbers in the box here and summon their softball star, Adeline Perez. Perez, first team All-Bergen County last year as a sophomore softball player. She plays for the Lady Ravens travel softball organization. Roman, and Roman looked for the left-footed shot. And now a chance for Villate to accelerate. Villate looking for Marcus, as Marcus is chased by Alex Ujoa, senior backup defender. Marcus will chase this down. Marcus then back to her right foot, takes the shot, and Ellis Marcus has her fourth of the half. Well, that's her best strike by far. And to have the confidence to take that shot with not a great angle and to put it in a spot where most high school goalies would not make that save. Ellis Marcus came in with 5 goals on the year, and she has 4 in the opening half. This one coming in the 33rd minute unassisted for Ellis Marcus. And the senior defender and Alex Ujoa desperately trying to keep up with the speed of Marcus and the quickness. Val Cascante ahead for Anderson, and Fort Lee caught with a lack of numbers. However, Anderson could only touch it forward on Kasahara. So there's one of maybe just a couple of examples so far for Fort Lee, as the third Teaneck shot is there, where Fort Lee got outnumbered. And perhaps forgetting that they were in their 3-5-2, so that you're missing a center back. Castro. And Castro will collect the foul against senior Caitlin Richards of Teaneck. Fort Lee's put together their most explosive half of the season. Season high in goals this year for Fort Lee is 5 in that win at Cliffside Park on the 6th. Ball into the area, and staying back is Leora Palavin to grab it. And with Fort Lee having some numbers. Cascante, and a beautiful delivery ahead for Roman, and it's going to be onside for Teaneck. Aleda Roman having Anderson and could not get the ball to the middle of the field. Now, sometimes when coaches watch film, many times it has the sound off, and that is where you love to see Ashley Anderson screaming for the ball to be played to her, because she would have been by herself. As it'll be a goal kick for Fort Lee. But what a touch and vision from Val Cascante. And Cascante, just a sophomore, but as Alexandra Cavallo describes her, that how she can control the ball with little touches and cover so much ground. But I've been impressed with Val Cascante's vision in terms of seeing the next play she's going to make. And dribbling is one thing, but Cascante is seeing where to go with the ball next before it's at her feet. As Cascante breaks up the goal kick. Sirachi with a good step. And Fort Lee with Shania Zarita. And Zarita pressured well up the field by Caitlin Richards. And Richards, a strong senior defender, is able to finally take her off the ball. So Cascante, and this time we'll play a ball outside for Andrade, and numbers again for Teaneck. With Anderson in the middle. And it'll end up as a corner. Again, Cascante is able to spring forward some attack. And Brianna Andrade nearly into position to turn the corner before Rogine Ria-Hinajad was able to put a stop to that. 6th corner for Teaneck. Ball delivered for Andrade, and the clearance from Ria-Hinajad. And upon the next ball, Viate with the takeaway and a chance for Fort Lee to transition. Marcus trying to stay onside. Ellis Marcus chops it across, looking for 5, takes the chance, and Palavin may have gotten her fingers on it. She did, and is credited with the save. Now, Marcus had the opportunity perhaps to consider her left foot. It's the first Fort Lee corner. as Viate looked for Ansley Castro. And a step there. Cascante breaks up. Viate, a sitting ball, and she shanked it over the bar. Well, a good extra layoff there from Shyla De Silva. And De Silva with good vision to notice Viate. After the Palaven goal kick. Sent ahead, and again, it is nearly Andrade that was able to run on to the end of it. 4-0 Fort Lee. Ellis Marcus. This was going to be senior night for Fort Lee on the calendar. It is not. But Ellis Marcus sure hoped perhaps that kind of performance would have come up for her. She has matched or nearly matched her goal output for the season today and had 9 career goals. Ellis missed all year last year with a broken toe. Wasn't even sure 1,000% she'd play this year. Zarita to the front, and Palaven will smother that cross as De Silva was waiting for a tap in. Shyla De Silva scored the lone goal for Fort Lee last time out in their loss at Cedar Grove. Ria Hinijad as Andrade with good pressure. And Rogine, honorable mention on Bergen County center back last year as a freshman, eventually has the clearance. Ria Hinijad, another hard step and challenge as Fort Lee looks for the build-up. And now to the feet of Viate. As Viate is able to get wide, bearing it on goal, takes the left-footed chance, and Palaven the save. Chatima will prevent Teaneck transition. Angelina Viate again with another long run just before the half. She does have a couple of assists, but it's Ellis Marcus, the story. 4 goals in the opening half, and Fort Lee comfortably with their most explosive half of the season lead Teaneck 4-0 at halftime. I'll be back in 10 minutes to bring you more action here on the Fort Lee Athletics YouTube channel. We'd like to thank all of our great sponsors for helping make this broadcast possible. The Fort Lee PBA, Cafaso's Fairway Market, The Finest Construction, Fort Lee Soccer Club, Rusin and Doru Electric, Bridgman Basketball Camp, the Fort Lee VFW, Visions Federal Credit Union, It's Greek to Me Restaurant, Connect One Bank, Bergen Black Sox Organization, Senator Builders, UCS Strength and Speed, the Collective Salon, and the Fort Lee Education Association. Thank you for helping make this broadcast possible. 4-0 at the break for Fort Lee. I'll be back in 10 minutes to bring you the second half on the Fort Lee Athletics YouTube channel. Underway in the second half, 4-0 Fort Lee. So the Bridgemen about to stop a 3-match losing streak as they take on a Teaneck club that is just 2-9. But Ellis Marcus has put herself in the position to score 4 goals, one of the top individual performances, regardless of competition level, in Fort Lee history. As Fort Lee opens up here, commanding possession, and Fort Lee would love to come up with their first shutout of the year. They don't have any. They've been shut out 3 times. While Teaneck on the season, they have been shut out only twice. Oh, I'm sorry, I should say, no, they've been shut out 9 times. They have 2 shutouts themselves in the pair of victories against Passaic Charter and 1-0 at Cliffside Park for the Highway women. And I think for head coach Ian Oates, he wants to see his team continue to make very good decisions on ball and proceed together as a team. They still would have 4 matches left in the regular season after this one. As here is the push from Biate, or make that Ansley Castro. As Castro waiting for some support, and off to Val Cascante, who played a very good first half for Teaneck as their starting defensive mid. Ria Hinijad had a good takeaway. Agranov trying to apply the pressure on the left back Restrepo. And Dalia Restrepo trying to send out Andrade down the line before the clearance comes from Fort Lee and Jera Jana. Marcus scoring her first goal, very similarly to the way she did her second. 3rd and 17th minute goals were basically both rebounds of shots. 19th minute, terrific find by Angelina Viate. Viate attacked the end line on the near left and then sprayed a ball across tight to the goal, across the face of goal, but past Leora Palavin. And on the backside of that, Marcus had the tap in, and then Marcus, with a one-on-one attack on the far right side, was able to take it and finish with her right foot to the near post upper 90 in a sensational shot for a high school player. And that's where we stand at 4-0 Fort Lee. Angelina Viate with assists on 2 of those 4 goals. Corners 6-1 at the break. Shots are 8-5 Fort Lee. Corners 6-1 for Teaneck. Nguyen, and look to play it across. The chase by Emily Martillo, couldn't reach it. And Fort Lee, trying to get the push going, was Ileana James. Viate, and a good step and challenge there from senior Emily Martillo. And Martillo, a first-year starter that put in a lot of work over the summer to become a co-captain for Teaneck. And playing in the middle of the field, starts at right mid in the Teaneck alignment of a 4-2-3-1. Castro, Ansley Castro, lining up the shot-looking far post. She did have a couple of numbers in the box, Ileana James in front, and Marcus also on the weak side. And perhaps to try to catch Palavin off of her line. Teaneck would love to put together a much better half, and I think for head coach Alexandra Cavallo, still the point being, regardless of score last time out, as they lost 6-0 at Old Tappan, and before that game was finished off early, there is a mercy rule now in Bergen County at 6 goals after 65 minutes. But Teaneck came away feeling, as I said in the first half, they played very evenly against Old Tappan in that second half in terms of the flow. Old Tappan is 11-2, Pascack Valley 12-2-1. So those two name brand programs in Bergen County girls soccer continue to be very, very good, and Teaneck finds themselves, in terms of quality, top-heavy, top 10 teams in the county, having 2 of them in their division all of these years. That's what makes it so difficult to find at least positive momentum in terms of results when you're playing those 2 a combined 4 times. And then Demarest and Tenafly have been solid programs too. So it is an unforgiving division. Viate, Castro. Bridgman getting numbers through, and Richards will prevent that cross. Good work there by senior Caitlin Richards in her first year on the varsity. Really tough player. Alexandra Cavallo loves how she will give it her all every moment. And Richards has risen to the occasion to be a starter in her first and only year in the varsity. And be physical playing center back. Palavin's goal kick. Settled at the feet of Castro. Castro watched by Adeline Perez. As Castro continues, then we'll take the left-footed chance, and Palavin will make the save. First save of her second half. Fort Lee already up to 10 stops. And now Ashley Anderson will come away with it and find Brianna Andrade wide. Andrade now trying to continue to apply pressure. Follow up here by Viate. As Viate continues full steam ahead with Ileana James. And Viate sidestepping numerous defenders, taking on Richards. Left-footed chance, and she's still looking for that elusive goal. Now, Teaneck has done well just to angle her off. After the very good work on Andrade and the other end, sprung that from Rosine Riahinajad. Just when it looked like Brianna Andrade was about to turn the corner, Riahinajad was able to get there and also key play, not fouling there, but being physical. As Viate continues her dribbling performance, then we'll take the shot from distance, and it rolls through. Well, Palavin had one more step in her, but a deep strike from Angelina Viate from a good 32 yards out makes it 5-0 Fort Lee. Eight minutes into the second half, and Viate with 1 and 2 on the afternoon, and that's her team leading 11th. Now this time she was able to get squared up to the ball, not much on the strike, but the way it skipped through, and I think Palavin may have been peeking and expecting a pass or for Viate to continue her dribbling show and to take it further, but Viate saw a window to take the shot from greater distance. 5-0 Fort Lee as they've matched their season high in goals. Viate connecting with Marcus. And Richards, though, first one on it. As the right back, Sirachi, looked for a clearance. And it'll be a goal kick for Teaneck. Teaneck head coach Alexandra Cavallo in her 6th season Previous 4 years was an assistant to Sa Hali, and she's a Teaneck graduate, class of 2011. Teaneck has had Division I players in the past. Here's a shot from distance by Castro. An easy scoop for Palavin. And both programs sending Division I players to nearby FDU. Of course, Ansley Castro's older sister, Alexa, is there now and seeing action. A shot from distance, and there's a second for Viate. This time she got her full weight behind it, was able to look at goal, and that is a more satisfying strike for Angelina Viate. 6-0 Fort Lee. I think that one, now in the 50th, is just going to put a capper on her feelings for this day to get that kind of quality strike. Viate will be subbed out, and perhaps that'll be all for her, with the score being what it is. Fort Lee will have the weekend off. Tuesday, they'll be back on the field at Dwight Morrow. And that's one of their 3 wins in the season. They defeated Morrow on September 18th, 4-1 here at home. And based on the last PowerPoints that came out in each section, top 16 qualify for the sectional tournament. And Fort Lee perhaps could be right on the bubble for the 16 seed. They'll probably need some help, but getting this one as well as a victory over Dwight Morrow would have helped. But the issue is that the state cutoff line is on Saturday. So one of the things that you hear people talk about in New Jersey is that the cutoff line for counting for the state tournament needs to be changed now, especially in the computer world. It doesn't take that long to come up with, to put all the results together and to get the right teams into the state tournament, where you're playing games that could be legitimate games, legitimate wins, but they're not going to help you. And that's what Fort Lee faces. Fort Lee is going to play games against Richfield Park Thursday the 23rd at Paramus, where stringing a couple of wins there, especially when they have Ansley Castro back. As here is Shania Zarita, as Zarina was getting ready to pull the trigger there, like Viate from distance. But unfortunately in this setup, you might come up with substantial wins and you have nothing to show for it because it's too late to get you qualified for the state tournament. Up ahead is Aleda Roman, then Roman in a collision with Ria Hinajad. Play allowed to continue. On the follow-up opportunity by Emily Martillo. Then to this backside for Brianna Andrade, and that'll be swept away from her. Oh, what a collision that was, and the hard challenge by Rosine Ria Hinajad. And the physicality that will surprise you, says Coach Ian Oates for his starting center back. Ria Hinajad was able to, just like I said before, not fouling Andrade. She's able to be physical without fouling, and that is an element that is not natural to all defenders. And it's a timing and a discipline aspect where you got to step at the right time and also not extend your arms or overdo the contact. You can be physical, but you can't overdo it. And that's when the most clever forwards, they'll of course overdo it and perhaps get some assistance from the center referee. Castro trying to play herself through. Ansley Castro cut off well by Restrepo, who denies the path. Castro then some assistance from Caitlin Richards. Ball punched right back into the top of the area. Jarajana on the next ball. And a loose ball at the top of the 18, and this shot booted forward, and another save has to be made for Leora Palavin. as Shania Zarita had the last chance. 13 Fort Lee shots. Castro, and nearly turned the corner. And there'll be a goal kick, 4 subs in here for Teaneck. 6-0 Fort Lee. Ellis Marcus, 4 first-half goals. And head coach Ian Oates likely has pulled at least his starting attacking players for the rest of this one. As I said, the Bridgemen will have the extended break of not playing this weekend. Martillo trying to send it up the line. So with Alexa Castro right now playing at FDU, Teaneck has an alum playing college soccer. The tremendous Demi Owens is now playing at Howard. And those two players, Alexa Castro and Demi Owens of Teaneck, could face one another again in last year's Northeast Conference Championship game that was won by the Howard Bison. Howard defeated FDU, and those two seem like they're going to be on a collision course again. LIU is also a factor. Demi Owens, graduating 2 years ago, set the school record with 92 career goals, including 34 in her senior year of 2023. And that's a big reason why Teaneck finished 6-13 that year. And Demi Owens was the Teaneck Female Athlete of the Year and played club soccer for STA. Here is a chance taken by Castro, shielding off the physical Caitlin Richards. Then before that, you go back about another 15 years, class of 2009, Natasha Clark, another Teaneck high school product that stayed very local and played at FDU. So it's been a program that has been able to churn out athletes, but just not at a great volume, especially when you play in among the bigger schools in Group 4. But it certainly takes villages to build programs. Here's Jedediah Mulugeta on the dribble for Fort Lee. Junior midfielder before an early season injury. Richards long on the touch. Chatima up ahead. Mulugeta. Or make that rather Shania Zarita. Mulugeta in the front. Feed to the top. Castro picks up a spot and missed. Well, Ansley Castro would love to build some confidence and see one go in. Particularly with everything that she has been through, to have surgery, to hustle back in her rehab. Last year, Castro had a goal in the road win by Fort Lee at Teaneck. As we'll get a couple more subs now for Fort Lee. As Angelina Viante has returned actually to the field. So Viante got about 5 minutes of rest, and she'll deal it back here to her center back in Ria Hinajat. Also, Eliza Idamaj, or Adamai rather, a sophomore, will play in one of the wide midfield spots as that toss for Adamai is out of her reach. Well, Teaneck had chances with 6 corners and 5 shots in the first half and had a goal disallowed on an offside. At the time, it was a 3-0 game. That was the right call by the official. But here in the second half, Teaneck has had nowhere close to the kinds of attacking chances. as Fort Lee looking to pick up their first shutout of the season. Last year, the program had 3. Shania Zarita. As Perez chases, Zarita trying to squeeze through. Zarita will get there, and Richards will shoulder her off. It'll be a corner, but impressed with the defending of Caitlin Richards. Sometimes you never know the type of quality player you'll find out of the student body. And Caitlin Richards has been an asset for Teaneck when you watch her. And she knew how to play physical there against a forward in Zarita who had a clear path and not foul. Third corner for Fort Lee. And Zarita will take this. And that will be all as we hit 60 minutes. With the score being 6-0, this one is called due to the mercy rule. As the official waited and I think was going to consider giving Fort Lee the corner. But that is it. Fort Lee will pick up a time-shortened mercy rule game to snap a three-match losing streak. They move to 4-8 on the season. And their first shutout. Teaneck falls to 2-10 on the year. And the Highwaymen drop their 7th in a row. This will be remembered as the Ellis Marcus game. 4 first-half goals, including the 4th one. That was a brilliant strike in the 33rd minute. Angelina Viate would add 2 unassisted tallies in the second half to give Misaki Kasahara and the defense the shutout. Teaneck is shut out for the 10th time this year. Viate would finish with 2 and 2. Marcus with 4 goals. That'll do it for all of us here for the Fort Lee Athletics YouTube channel. We remind you that coming up at approximately 7 p.m., a tremendous boys match. Wallington, who right now is the #1 seed in North 2 Group 3 for the state tournament, against Fort Lee, who right now would be a 6th seed in their respective group for the state tournament. A major collision between those two teams and a lot at stake for those two to try to sew up high seeds for the state tournament. Wallington and Fort Lee boys coming up at about 7 p.m. right here on the Fort Lee Athletics YouTube channel. Until then, my name is Ralph Bnorchik saying so long, and I'll talk to you very soon with that one.